It is up, everyone. This is the Servant-in-Chief of the Essence Holdings International Community of Companies, and this is today's share. In this share, I am seeking to expand upon the idea that it is okay, despite the negative connotations of this word association, to be a side piece. Now, that is not a side piece. It is the word aside piece. I've heard this word before, and I'm familiar with the definition of the word as an adverb, which is to one side, out the way, to put something aside, or basically get it out the way. I was not familiar with the definition of the word as a noun. And it's actually, if you've watched a play or maybe in a movie or something, well, they referred it to a play, but it's a remark or a passage in a play that is intended to be heard by the audience but unheard by other characters in the play. So when one character or something is said that the audience hears, but the characters in the play go on like they didn't hear it, that is also a side. This idea, this thought, actually came the night before. So last night, I was actually taking a shower and had a first word that came to mind is about. With this episode of negative thoughts, I can tend to be there, everything just great, and all of a sudden, boom, it's like this wave of negativity comes over me. And it was like last night my prayers had been answered, because all this time I'm seeking God and saying, Lord, I need your help in dealing with this. And it was like almost immediately when the wave came about, the thought, the idea, the revelation, etc., came. Put the thoughts aside. Cast the negative thoughts aside. Okay, Lord, how do I do that? What do I do? Is there a chant? Do I have to jump up? What is it? And that was followed up with, just speak the truth. And that one line right there really had a transformative effect on me, as it took on a greater life, another meaning. And when those words, speak the truth, came, it was like it hit me. In this day and age where everyone's speaking their truth, I'm on here, I guess would be classified speaking my truth. It's like everyone's truth has become this very, I don't know if it's objective or subjective thing where it differs for everybody. But in this moment, when it says just speak the truth, it hit me like, just speak the things of God. For Jesus is the truth. God is true. And everything about him is true. And that caused me, in a sense, to get out of my feelings, to put my feelings aside. Because a lot of times my feelings are based on something that is subjecting me to whatever I'm going through at that time. Whereas the truth of God, Jesus, is unchanging. He's that anchor. He's that solid rock for me. And so I began speaking the truth in basically just saying that God is the greatest. He is sovereign. He is King of all kings, Lord of all lords. He is the author and finisher of our faith. He is the maker of all. He is Lord of all. He's awesome. He's mighty. He's all powerful. On and on and on. That's the truth. Hallelujah. All praise is due to him. That's the truth. And by doing so, I set aside all the other pieces of my existence. Needless to say, when I started dosing myself with today's treatment, this idea, it was like God was reminding me. He didn't introduce the idea, but he was, for me, confirming that he is ordering my steps in this direction. As, chapter 37, verse 11, when Joseph had told his family the dream that he had, how his father kept in mind what he said. So he took that thought, this share that his son had given him, and while he kind of rebuked him and said, hey, what you trying to say? Like, we're supposed to bow to you? He actually didn't just get rid of the thought. He's put this thought aside, the back of his mind. Also, his brothers, when they had decided, you know what, let's get rid of this guy, they wanted to set him aside, turn him into a piece of meat that was just for the slaughter. When he was taken out of the pit, he became a side piece in Egypt, because he was taken out of his brother's way, quote unquote, and sent down to Egypt. Joseph's garment, he said, you know what, I'm gonna get out of this situation, when it came to Potiphar's wife, and he had no problem setting aside his garment. I'm not sure if that meant like he got out, nude, or he was missing a piece of his clothes or one whole section of his garment, but that piece was set aside for the purpose of retaining righteousness. Lastly, when Potiphar's wife brought this to his attention, he was basically put out the way in prison. A side piece, set aside piece. I wonder how often the dreams that he had, because I'm sure they were a side piece of his heart, of his thought, of his mind, and how that played on him. Regardless of it all, this was an extra bit of encouragement that it's okay to be set aside. Take your peace, your truth, and again, I'm speaking to myself out loud in your hearing. So when I say your, it's really me speaking to me in what I hope to be a divinely inspirational way. But it's okay to be set aside. Take aside piece of that thought, this piece of my truth, and learn to just lay it aside. It is a side piece to the real glory, the real truth, which is God in His abundant, everlasting, never-ending, uncomprehendable love subjected Himself to humanity, paid the price so that we could have communion and fellowship with Him. The truth lays aside every other piece, because in Him I find wholeness, completeness. Everything else is just pieces. And this really has helped me to recognize the importance of setting aside every piece in order to gain the fullness of the one. Not a fraction, but a complete, whole, righteous one. Caption this. Sir.